Hey guys, welcome back. This is Mr. Rip, and this is weekly coaching number 3 with King Louie. So last week the homework was to try and identify what type of lane you're in, and so for this week what we're going to do is not so much a replay review, but we're going to look at multiple matchups in different lanes throughout many games. So we'll maybe pick like 5 or 6 games and try and analyze how the matchup is supposed to go in each of those lanes, and then how we're supposed to play from it. So let's do the weekly review now. So, Louis, what's the MMR for this week?
453. No, 853.
853. I was going to say that is quite a drop, sir.
Oh.
How many how many games did you play? Wow. Okay, 853 for sure. Okay, and did you have some games where you wanted to look at the lanes?
I can do my last one. I played I've had like some iffy games, like a lot of them, if for some reason like 3 games in a row, like someone just like left.
Okay.
But they didn't leave, they just disconnected at the start basically. And then
like minute 1. Okay, let's not look at those games. Let's look at just like normal games. Which one would be good to look at? Because I want to look at like 5 or 6 games, and we'll just analyze how the lane matchup is supposed to go.
Okay.
And that's all we'll
do. There's this one. There's the one I just played.
So this Enchantress game? I can see your match history, so.
Oh, okay.
The Ench game? 50 to 60,
yeah.
This one? Okay. Alright, so let's start with this one real quick. So you are Enchantress, and you have an offlane Slark, right?
Yeah.
And you're versus Jakiro PA. So, what would be your idea on like how these heroes are going to interact, and like what's going to happen normally?
I thought we'd win the lane, like technically, like if level 1 like Slark's pretty like good, if that makes sense. And then I was thinking, if I can 50 trade with the PA, and then around like maybe like level 6, we just straight win the lane, because I think the only thing we were worried about was like the Jakiro's like the not the macro player, but he's like the one what Q what does a lot of damage, does a lot of burn.
Oh yeah, dual breath.
Yeah, I think it's that. Yeah.
Okay, so you think like you guys have the harass advantage early, and then once you hit 6, Slark has the advantage over PA.
Yeah.
Okay, I think I'd agree with that too. I think that applies for you as well. Typically, we want to be focusing. That is an important consideration, like who hits 6 first, for sure. But we also want to be thinking about like the level 1, like level 2 and 3, kind of everywhere up to like 5-6 minutes around there.
Yeah.
So I think I would say they actually have more harass than you do, because they have PA daggers and they have dual breath and liquid fire on Jakiro. So around like level 2, they actually have like quite a bit of like damage output, right? And with Slark has no ranged harass at all. The only way he does damage is basically by melee range, right? So that means your job in this lane is going to be to like basically do all of the damage early on to like set up for when he can like pounce and kill. And then another thing is that with Slark specifically, like he's good into melee heroes, because the more he gets to hit them, the more stats he steals, right? And it just gets better and better for him. So what I would say in this lane, and Slark's not a good offlaner, by the way, so this is going to be weird because you have 2 position 1s. Basically what this comes down to, I would say, is if you can harass the Jakiro away enough to get Slark to 1v1 this PA, or you 2v1 the PA, and then you guys have the advantage, right? Because in a straight man fight, Slark strictly has the advantage against this PA. In a long, drawn-out lane, they're going to out-harass you, right?
Okay.
Even though your hero is very good at harassing, just they have 2 heroes doing it versus you only have the 1. They also are a little bit better at just hard committing and going for a kill. So not like an extended engagement, but like, hey, they're low, let's jump them. Because they have the slow from Jakiro, that's also doing damage, and they have PA slow and her blink, right? Whereas you
Yeah.
you only have pounce, which is good, and you have enchant, which is a decent slow, but it's just not doing damage the way Jakiro's is also doing damage, right? So their all in's a little
Yeah.
bit better, their harass is a little bit better, um, but like the 1v1 for Slark versus PA is like really good for you. So I would be aiming to try and create that as much as possible. Um,
Oh yeah.
and then another thing to think about is how important the camps are in any given lane, right? So what do you think about that in this matchup? Like, how much do you care about the hard camp and the small camp?
Oh, I blocked their like small camp,
Okay.
and then I was gonna just try pull the lane if it was like pushed up too much.
Okay. So
Um,
is it necessary though? Can you get by without doing those things, or is it like lane ruining
um,
if it doesn't happen?
I feel like this game, if we're like close to the tower fighting, it's like super like hard, like bad for us. And I didn't want to stack too much because like Slot's not the like best of like taking stacks, but like they can like I don't know level 6 they could just macro if it's secure you can just macro fire it and just get like I know it's like it's an ulti, but it's just like they would just get take like the levels if that makes sense if it's like a big
Yeah,
stack.
yeah, that's really good that you're thinking about like how well they could actually clear the camp. I'd say in this instance though, you don't really need to be worried about Jakiro's level 6 because the lane phase is gonna last longer than it will before he actually gets level 6, right? Like kind of in this patch, supports are getting their ults a lot later. So the lane phase is usually kind of over before that happens, at least in higher, like mid to high tier brackets. That's how it goes, right? So I wouldn't be
Yeah.
factoring in the supports ultimates too much into how the lane is going. More, I would be thinking about ultimates for all heroes in terms of like, if we hit this threshold, does the lane now totally change? But that is really good that you're thinking about it. Like that is true. They're better at clearing camps than you are because of Jakiro. But
Yeah.
one really important thing with your hero here, Enchantress really wants the camps and maybe even both of them because you have enchant. So you can
Okay.
always take those camps. So I think an Enchantress would prefer to actually have both of the camps alive just to give yourself more options. And at the very least, you really want the hard camp to be alive. Is that making sense?
Yeah.
Because like right now, I mean, you can enchant a level 4 creep at level 1, so you can't get the Tormentor, but you can get these other two, and that's decent. And if the small camp is available too, that means you can get like ghosts and stuff like that, which is not bad. But if you feel like the pull is super important, which I do agree, like it is important that they don't get to pull here, then just blocking this and making sure this is up is probably the way to go. Because
Yeah.
both of these comps they're not really like pure burst, right? So PA and Slark are going to kind of get kills by running you down the lane. You know, like having a
Yeah.
lot of space to chase you is a really good way to like get kills here. Less so for them, but more so for you guys. So if you guys are pushed up, your potential to get kills is like zero, right? They could
Yeah.
still kind of kill you under your tower, maybe, but it's more important for you guys. So to maintain that offense, you'd want to keep the lane back here. I agree with that. Did you
Okay.
have any questions about how this lane kind of should go
Um.
or anything like that?
I think it was okay thing. I know I didn't gank as much. Like I didn't really gank this game too much because like
Not
Slock.
worried about that at all. Let just focus on the lane. Don't worry about anything outside the lane. Just we'll keep it simple. It's fine.
Oh
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. Like I was trading a bit, and then there was sometimes I was trying to deny the creeps.
Mhm.
But then it was like they was like harassing me, and like I think I just went back for a little bit.
Okay.
I think I went back a bit, like just to like not take the damage, but instead of like maybe like harassing a bit more.
Okay. Yeah, I would say because of like that thing I said about how like kind of they have more range harass than you do, right? So you're kind of the only range harass. I think
Yeah.
I would level my Q over my W.
Yeah.
Um, especially in the
I've
first minute because you're not going to have the camps in the first minute, right? So you can't. The only benefit of enchant is like dispelling someone
uh
or slowing them, right? Go ahead.
yeah, it was only at basically at the start, like there was like a big like fight up by the river, and
Okay.
then it was and then like I thought we was gonna get the kill on like PA at the start, but then she got away. But then like I used the like enchant to slow her down.
Okay. That makes sense. Yeah, that's why I'm like really hesitant to fight over runes and stuff in skill just for the rune fights. Because I feel like the
Yeah,
value of like getting first blood and stuff like that is, I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like having a good lane, especially level one, outweighs that little bit of gold you get from first blood. So
yeah,
if I like have to take a certain spell level one just for the rune fight, like I'd actually rather not and take the spell that's good for laning, and ensure that I'm good for the next minute or whatever, right?
yeah.
Um, but what I would also say is because of that thing, like I'd want you to go impetus here, and I'd also want you to bring like a ton of regen. So don't worry about like this null talisman or anything like that. The stick is totally good, and just bring like extra tangos and things. So I'm gonna back it up to like when the lane started and just look at starting items. Um, so this is mostly good, except I wouldn't worry about these components. Like instead, what I
Okay.
would do with these components is I'd bring like extra tangos. That's not just for you. That's also for the Slark because you guys are facing a lot of harass and you have a melee core, right? So
Yeah.
being able to give him tangos is going to be very helpful. Like basically spending this on tangos, mangoes, and just like branches is going to be better because the null talisman is not that good of an item and it does help your damage, but you do a lot of damage with impetus anyway. You don't really need
Okay.
that. And blood grenade is always just good anyway, and having the wards is good too. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then obvious, and I would always show up to this lane with a stick because it's Phantom Assassin. That's like
Yeah.
non-negotiable. If you're laning against like a Zeus, a Bristleback, a PA, Batrider, anybody that has the potential to spam spells over and over and over again, magic stick by default every time. So
Okay.
yeah, so I think here it'd be like stick, maybe like six tangos, maybe a mango, sentry ward, and then the rest just like iron branches. Don't need the blood grenade right away, but you could if you had leftover gold. Okay. And any questions about any of that, or should we move to the next
No,
one?
you can go to the next one.
All right, for sure. So let's see here. All right. Do you want to look at this hoodwink one? This
Yeah, I can.
sure.
In fact, no. I think that one's the one where someone like the Undying left early. Like he missed like the first few minutes.
Was he not even there?
He like DC'd for like 4 minutes, then came back, and
Was
then
it
he just was like,
was it right at the start?
yeah,
Okay, we won't worry about this one then, because that's an abnormal lane thing. That's basically just you solo laning. How about
um,
the next Enchantress game?
yeah, we can have a look at that one then.
Sure. All right. So game two. So you are position 4, and you've got a tiny off lane, okay, versus Pudge SF. All right. What are your initial impressions about how this lane is supposed to go?
Um, I think we can win it, but it all depends like on like the first interaction. I felt like Tiny's like kind of bad as like an offlaner because he takes like a lot to get going at the start, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I was like, he's got like the stuns, like he could like nuke them down, but
Yeah.
like if it doesn't work, like it's just like Shadow Fiend will just hit him with two rays, and it'll be like hard for him, if that makes sense.
Yeah, Tiny's not
And
very
then like
popular right now. I agree with that. Yeah, go ahead.
and then it's like if the Pudge gets a hook off, there was like there would be like no save. But then if like the Pudge comes up a bit more, like we could like go on him,
Mm-hmm.
or if the Shadow Fiend goes up, like they can like. I feel like it's a 50-50 lane, but it all just depends how like we play it, if that makes sense. But they
Yeah,
do
yeah.
have the more. They have more. It's like easier for them to execute than for us to execute, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I'd agree with that, especially early levels, just because of the Pudge. Like they have a lot more kill threat on you,
Yeah.
especially given the tower. Um, wait, why did it? Okay, that's weird. That's so strange. Okay, why did I think there was an SF? Did it bug? Hold on. I think it bugged out. Okay, never mind. It's Pudge Monkey King versus Tiny Enchantress. Okay, weird. All right, so that does change things. So I agree with you. I think Tiny's super weak early. It doesn't really do
Yeah.
anything level like 1, 2. Like he kind of needs like level like 3, 4, 5 to start having any kill threat, and he's just not that good of a laner, right? His
Yeah.
tree throw is decent though, but he has 0 armor, and Monkey King is specifically someone that dumps on melee cores, especially ones with low
Yeah.
armor. So this is a super bad matchup for this Tiny. I'd be expecting to kind of lose this lane, and this would be a lane where I'd be playing for get the hell out of this lane as soon as possible. Like, this lane is not worth continuing. If we can kill Monkey King, great, but other than that, like, we're not really going to bother too much. And another
Okay.
thing is because of the Pudge, like when Pudge does get here eventually, it's also super duper important that the lane is pulled all the time, because we don't want to
Okay.
be laning right here, so Pudge can just hook us under tower, right?
Yeah.
That's like the only way that Pudge wins his lane is by getting a stupid hook under a tower. So it's super duper important that we secure the hard camp, and we do anything we can to pull these creeps back as much as possible. And this might be one where you might want to consider like dragging creeps every now and then, like going behind the tower and grabbing the creeps. You ever try that before?
I'm like off laners sometimes.
Yeah. So you can do it as a support too. And basically the idea is like you meet the creeps where they would want to pull them into the camp, and you either drag
Yeah.
it in front of your tower or you drag it behind your tower. I can't highlight anything
Mm.
because we're paused. But you'd want to drag it here or here. And that sort of depends on how good the matchup is. So like if you drag it back here, for instance, and and Tiny has to lane right next to the Monkey King, it's still not even that good for Tiny.
Okay.
So this would be one where I'd opt to like drag it back here. If it gets up to like this position, like assuming the Pudge is here, right? Like I'd be thinking about after this wave, I need to be making sure I'm pulling this on 15. And if that's not possible, like let's say the Pudge has blocked it or something, then I'd be running
Yeah.
over here and I'd be dragging these creeps down. The Pudge isn't even here yet, so okay. So now we're in this position. So this is the exact like dangerous situation, and it's good that you're doing this. So this is perfect. The Tiny needs to be not doing this. Tiny needs to be playing on the left, right? So this is exactly what needs to happen here. Um, and I don't know, did you bring wards here? You did, right? So you brought a ward to block, and that's fine too. Um, but I'd actually hold that sentry to just unblock. This is like the only way they kill Tiny, by the way, is this happening. Um, so in this type of a lane, when I show up like level 1, remember that
Yeah.
discussion we were having last time about like how are we actually going to use the wards?
Yeah.
Right. So it's it's more it's more important for this camp to exist, for your hard camp to exist, than for the small camp to not exist in a way.
Okay.
And another way you can kind of think about it is that like if you hold your sentry to block this, you can go physically to unblock this. You can go physically block the small camp with your hero. So that's always an
Okay.
option. If one camp does need to be blocked, like it doesn't necessarily mean that you need a ward to block it, because you can do it yourself by just standing in it. But
Okay.
in order to make sure the camp exists, you have to have a sentry, because what if they block it, right? So it's tough. Like you ideally this, the small camp doesn't exist and the hard camp always exists, but you can't guarantee that, right?
Yeah.
Because the problem is like let's say the creep equilibrium is like out here, and then Pudge does a small pull, and then it's right here. Well, now Pudge has kill threat on you again because of the stupid tower, so now you have to like fix that, right? So
Okay.
it's a hard lane no matter what. I think in this lane, I think I'd actually start the lane with like boots. I'd start the lane with like maybe boots and 2 sentries. Um,
Okay.
Not really planning to sit here, but you do have the advantage if you do sit here of you actually don't really need regen against a Monkey King and a Pudge, because it's not like they're doing ranged harass against you. The only way they kill you is like all in, right? You
Yeah.
keep your boots on you. You're harder to hook in. You're harder for Monkey King to hit you at all. So you can just like constantly kite back and forth, and then having the boots is going to allow you to like rotate over to the camp here or drag much more efficiently and like do that and then run back to Tiny. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think that's how I would itemize here, because this is much more of a standard item build, but you don't have a standard matchup here. Like this guy's really unfavored. Um,
Yeah.
and it's tough. And then again, also you want the hard camp so that you can enchant the creep and use the creep, right?
Yeah.
So any questions about any of that so far?
Um. Nah, that's okay with that one. I was just thinking because at the start I was like, um, I always thought like if I go to the top ruin
Uh-huh.
and I block the little camp, they
Mhm.
shouldn't be. I should see them like get the if they was to block the large camp, if that makes sense.
You mean like if they're gonna like if you block this one, then you have knowledge of if they're blocking this one with their body?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because then like the way I would like because like I went to the lane, if that
Mhm.
makes sense.
Yeah.
I'd see that like Pudge would like if Pudge comes in and he has a ward, I would then buy a ward, if that makes sense.
Sure, yeah. It's just that and that's great. That's great. It's just that in this type of a lane, I'd be thinking like it's super duper important that I like have this the way I want it
Oh,
immediately, right?
oh, okay.
Because I mean, that's fine and all. That's a good way of thinking about it too. And I like that it's factoring in the knowledge. There's just always a risk to like having to send something out on the courier where it's like, well, what if you forget? Or what if you don't have the gold to actually buy it and send it on the courier? Or what if your courier dies somehow? Or just, like there's all these little things.
Okay.
Or like, what if,
Yeah.
you're sending it on the courier and you have to like back up to go get it and then come back out and you kind of miss that timing. Like if something is like super important that you need it like it's gotta happen in this lane, then that's where you'd want to like start with it and send yourself the other items. Like that's why
Oh,
you can get away with starting boots because you can like well
oh,
you can just send yourself tangos, right? Like
yeah.
usually you want to just start with the tangos, but in a lane like this they're less important. So if you need them you can then send them, but the sentry like you're going to need it, right?
Yeah.
um you don't have to start boots. That's just probably the way I would do it to make this whole thing a little bit easier. And basically the
Okay.
idea, what we'd be playing for is what the goal is that Tiny is never interacting with Monkey King. Like we just,
Okay.
Monkey King gets to hit creeps over there, and we hit creeps over here, and we don't care if Monkey King's getting farmed because we can't really contest him until Tiny has a bunch of levels, and then we can go burst the Tiny later or burst the Monkey King, right? This would be playing for a much later timing, whatever that is. Probably, I don't know, probably at least like level 4 or 5, I would say on Tiny. I'm not a Tiny expert, but that would be my guess. All right, let's look at another one. Is this helpful so far?
Yeah.
Okay. I think this works better if I play this because if I pause it, those post game things actually lag out. Okay. You want to focus on the support ones,
Um,
or do
I
you want to
think
look at cores?
a lot of this week I played a bit of cores,
Okay.
but we can look at those if you want. Cause I didn't play many
It's whatever you
support
have
ones.
questions about. Like if any of these lanes kind of like stumped you, or they didn't go the way you thought they should have, we can look at that one.
Um, I think there's a lane like I did like I think it was the um CK one I did bad in, but then I just left and like just went to like jungle after
Okay. All right.
like for a bit
So let's have a look at this one then. Interesting. So their ranks aren't loading, or their role isn't loading. So I'm assuming this one is you and Spirit Breaker versus Jugg+CM, right?
yeah.
Okay. So the downside to this is that if you're playing a core, you have a lot less control over these lane dynamics because it's like you don't necessarily have time to like go pull and everything like this. But uh, so first off, did you think that you were against Jugg+CM? Did you identify that ahead of time?
Yeah, I said, but then I know Jug and CM work really well together, but then I was like, I could also be versus Jugoga, if that makes sense.
Sure, it's more or less the same thing though, as far as you're concerned. I mean, it's a stun and a slow, right?
Yeah.
This replay is very bugged out right now. Yeah. Oh, I'm not even sharing my screen. Are you watching on the?
Yeah, I'm watching on the.
Okay, I'll share my screen too, so you can see it live if you want. Sorry about that. Oh my God!
No
Every
problem.
look at these models. What the hell's going on? This replay is cursed, man. Oh no. Okay. Oh my God, Jugg is horrifying. He's just a floating torso. What the
I don't know. Ogre's pretty bad.
Ogre is Ogre's very naked. Alright, I'm gonna try and reload this replay and see if that works. Okay. Let's try this again. I love when stuff doesn't load. Oh no! It's Serpent Viper! This is horrifying. Holy shit. I've never seen that before. Alright. Oh, how weird does this get? Okay, I need to. Okay, IO's just nothing. Wraith King is just some guy. Okay. This is wonderful. Alright, screw it. We're just gonna have a cursed replay then. Noodle Viper. That's good. Alrighty. So, turned out to be Jugg Ogre. So, obviously, they have like super kill threat on you, right?
Yeah.
CK is nice though, in that he has it won't even show me your freaking spells. He has sustain through his lifesteal, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
So
I chose
really,
the
like,
lifesteal.
yeah. So as long as you dodge this, you're good. And then the other thing is like it's hard to stun this Juggernaut because he's got magic immunity. So we want to avoid that as much as possible. So like, if you, so if you know the lane is hard for you, right?
Yeah.
You have even less room to make the mistakes. So like randomly dying to the Juggernaut, like will just make the lane like 10 times harder to play.
See, in that,
Go ahead.
what I was thinking then, I was thinking if we like kill each other, like if I like was to kill him like just before we both die, it'd be like worth it because like he's technically the carry. I was thinking, if that makes sense.
It does. That is valid. Like if you can trade out for him, sure. It's just that it's a bit of a gamble.
Uh,
You don't know that you're going to kill him first. I mean, you guys did end up killing him. The other problem, it's a minor problem, but it is a problem. So if Jugg kills you first, right? So that means he gets more gold and he gets the XP for killing you. And then Spirit Breaker kills the Jugg, actually gets a little bit more gold because now his net worth is higher. And then Spirit Breaker gets the XP and you don't. So that's making your matchup harder, and it is better for the team overall. Like if you just deleted Juggernaut from their team and deleted CK from their team, the game is easier for your team, right?
yeah.
But for your lane, it makes it even harder because now he's got the XP first. But it's not a terrible idea. But what I would say is it's generally going to be more effective to just like play it safer. You know what I mean? Like instead of trying to gamble. Because if you gamble wrong or whatever, you know, and then you get it wrong, then it's going to be even harder for you.
Yeah.
It's a very obnoxious lane. And then actually, so let's pretend you were the Spirit Breaker, right? So
Yeah.
if you were the Spirit Breaker, how do you think you should play this lane to help out the CK the most?
Like just maybe if they it does get pulled, like pull the camp, the lane from the round to me, if that makes sense.
Pull which camp? The hard camp?
Yeah, yeah. If they pull it back, like to keep it keep it like close to my tower. Also, like because I can like farm pretty quickly, like maybe stack a camp or two for me in like the triangle on the side. There's
Yeah.
even like level like 6, I can just use my ulti to farm like the ancients. And even if there's like three stacks of ancients there, I can still take them like pretty quickly.
Right. Okay, yeah, I
And, like
agree. I agree. That's all good. So it's basically like making sure we're keeping equilibrium like pulled back on our tower and also
yeah,
setting up recovery farm ahead of time, like going to make stacks
yeah,
ahead of time. Yeah, no, I think that's a really good idea. Um, and I think also another way to make this a little bit better is to try and pull the ogre away from the Juggernaut. Because I think
Yeah.
I don't know, but basically there's multiple ways you can think about the lane. So you've got like the 1v1 of the two cores. There's also the 1v1 of the two supports. So if like Ogre and Spirit Breaker are just punching each other over here, right? Like they just, they both DC'd and are just punching the hell out of each other and like maybe casting spells or whatever. Like who wins that
Yeah.
trade? Who wins the
I
trade between the two cores? And then also you have to think about what does the 2v2 look like?
I
So
think they win on the 2v2, but on like both 1v1s, I think we win.
yeah, I think it's pretty close actually. Yeah, because you have the sustain, and I think Spirit Breaker versus Ogre. I'm not actually sure. I think Ogre barely wins that because he has more armor.
I
I
just
don't
think like
know.
so the chance with the bash,
That's
like
true. There is the bash chance as well. Yeah, that one's sort of a toss up. I think Ogre is a little bit favored though, just because he has magic damage spells and he has a little bit higher armor. And then there's
mm,
another thing to consider, which is let's say we break the lane down into two 1v1s. So it's CK and Jug,
yeah.
and it's Ogre and Spirit Breaker over here. How easy is it to break that and turn it into a 2v1? Like how easy is it to connect one person from one of those 1v1s into the other one? So in this instance,
Um,
yeah, go ahead.
if it was Spirit Breaker, he could go on the Jug very quickly, like just with a charge, like from like if he was to like take him away.
Right.
But then I feel like the Jug though would kill the Spirit Breaker before I kill him, if that makes sense.
Well, let's just pretend everybody's 100 health, right?
Yeah.
Everybody's 100% health. So like you're right. So like Spirit Breaker has more mobility. It's easier for Spirit Breaker to connect to your 1v1 with Juggernaut over there, right? So that's another reason why you want to split it up because the
But I
2v2
mean,
is
like,
go ahead. Yeah.
because if I was gonna say like if he gets the spin though, and like I think I can like on us like we would die if that makes sense. So like
Yeah.
like that like if he like charged him and like he spins, he would probably kill us before like I could then kill him if I'm hitting him, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I suppose
Like
if
you,
you're thinking like everyone's just like standing still, but you do have an element of control over like how much damage the Juggernaut does to you just based on spacing. But yeah, that's
yeah.
true. I don't think Spin is good enough to kill two strength heroes just with one cast. It's not that
No,
good
no, because
level one, but yeah, go ahead.
I mean if you just focus like if you just because like obviously Spirit Breaker charged into him would be like on top of him, if that makes sense.
Hmm.
And then I just think if he span on top of him and just like hit him, he'd be fine, if that makes sense.
Yeah, if everyone just stood still. Yeah. So the thing is with heroes like Juggernaut is that you do have an element of control over how much damage they're going to do to you because once he casts the spin, he can't like turn it off, right? And it's only right next to him. So if you have like a lot of mobility, like let's say it was flipped, like let's say you're 1v1ing the ogre and Spirit Breaker is 1v1ing the Jug. That actually becomes favored for the Spirit Breaker in a way because if Jug starts spinning, Spirit Breaker can just charge away. So he gets to control how much damage he's taking from that
No,
in a way.
no, I just meant if he charged into him,
No, no,
if that
I
makes sense.
I understand. I'm understand. I'm
Yeah.
just trying to point out to you that it's like spin does a lot of damage, but it doesn't do like that much damage to just like one shot someone with 900 health, right? So
Oh.
so you don't have to be that worried about it. But the idea, the reason I brought it up anyway is like basically like if you were playing Spirit Breaker here, you'd want to create these two separate 1v1s, and then
Okay.
once Ogre is far enough away, then you can connect onto the Juggernaut and make it a 2v1, which is always going to be favored for you guys. That's just you guys just do more damage and have more health. His two heroes versus just the Juggernaut, even with his spin, you outdamage him. Um,
Okay.
or at the very least, you can like hit him and then zone him away from the creeps, right? So this would be one where also the camps are like pulling is important. It's not as important as it was with like Enchantress and the Pudge. It's
Yeah.
helpful, but it's not like we lose the lane if they get a pull off. It's not that bad. Um, because it's not like, while we're farming up here, they insta kill us. You know what I mean? Like you can still like move away from them whenever Jug walks up to you. It's not so bad. But what I
Yeah.
was going to say is you want to be really careful stacking against a Juggernaut because, like, let's say you stack this camp and you go to pull it, right?
Yeah.
Juggernaut can just spin everything and spin the creep wave and all the camp at the same time. And so he's
Yeah.
very good at contesting stacked camps. So you'd want to be relying more on single pulls against the Juggernaut, right?
Yeah.
Um, any other thoughts on this one?
No, not on this one.
Okay, let's look at another one. Is this helpful so far?
Yeah.
Okay. We got a little IO ping there. That was weird. Okay, let's see. Which game you want to look at next? We'll look at maybe one more.
Yeah, you can do the Axe one.
Okay. Righty. So this is Axe 3 and Skywrath 4 versus Jugg 1 and Dazzle 5. All right. What are your thoughts on this lane?
This one would be like hard to do it if he gets like the heal thing, because I know it does damage to me. But then like if like I can get a call on him and like I spin him, I should kill him before it like happens, if that makes sense.
Do you mean Dazzle's healing wave, or do you mean Juggernaut's
Yeah,
healing
yeah, because
totem?
Dazzle heals like they'll have a lot of sustain, but like I feel like if like I get a call off like on him,
Mm-hmm.
like on them, the Sky can silence the Dazzle, and I would be able to kill him before the heals come in, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I'm checking something real quick. Yeah, okay. So counter helix does go through debuff immunity, which I'm actually not sure on that. So yeah, I think you guys are favored in this lane.
Yeah,
Dazzle is ironically actually pretty good into Axe early on for that exact reason. Like if Axe
yeah,
goes and surrounds himself and creeps because he taunted or whatever, it's really easy
yeah,
for Dazzle to just burst the Axe with a big heal, right?
yeah,
Um, and also your counter helix goes through Jug's spin, so that's good.
yeah,
And I think actually your ranged harass is better than theirs. So Skywrath is going to out damage the Dazzle and outrange him. And it's going to be
yeah,
enough to where, like, even with their double sustain, it's not really going to be enough. They're not going to be able to heal that much. Like, Skywrath outputs so much damage. So you guys should have the harass advantage, and you should be okay in like the 2v1. Like basically the way I would be seeing this lane is going to go is like if Skywrath does his job and does a lot of harass, they're going to be weak, which means they're going to have to spend more money on regen. And we have another cursed replay. Oh my god, these are terrifying. Maybe it's because these are old replays. Jesus Christ, look at Dazzle. Oh! Oh my god, this thing is made of nightmares. Holy what the Oh, that's no bueno. What does Axe look like? I want to see Axe real quick. Sorry, I'm getting distracted. Axe is not too bad. He's a little derpy. And Skywrath is also terrifying. Okay. So basically, like, yeah. If Skywrath does his job right, he out harasses the Dazzle, and then basically, because he's out harassing the Dazzle, that means he also gets to harass the Juggernaut once the Dazzle is zoned out, right? Because he outranges
yeah,
both of them, he can actually just kind of harass the Juggernaut with impunity. Um, you're very good against melee cores, just in general. That's just kind of how Axe is, except for maybe like Monkey King. Monkey King kind of a counterpick to you. But in general, you should win against most melee cores. You know, because especially when like the creeps cut and all that stuff, you know, like you can just walk in the middle of it and aggro the Jug and just
yeah,
start spinning on him. It's very good for you. So I'd expect you guys to win this lane. The only way you lose this one is by like screwing up and letting them like get a what's it called, a poison touch spin on you. That's kind of it.
yeah,
Otherwise, this should be good. Um, and from the support's perspective, uh, you don't need these camps at all. They're just not important to you because you're not worried about pulling this back because you're favored. Like the advantage to doing this is that you get to like deny XP to the Juggernaut, but it's not like necessary, right? And then
yeah,
both cores, both you and Juggernaut, are very good against stacked camps. See, this is exactly why. This is what I was saying about Juggernaut being able to contest pulls. This is why you got to be careful with it. Like he just walks up and spins it, and gets
Yeah.
everything. Yeah. So this is why. And Axe is a little bit of the same way too. Like it's if it's stacked, he walks up, he just spins everything to death. Um, so that's why like the camps are not like critical, And actually, Dazzle has to be really careful about stacking the small camp because Axe can walk over and just spin the shit out of it, you know.
Yeah.
And then also like if Axe is like cutting the lane, he can just drag it into the small camp and spin it as well. So in lane matchups like this where like the enemy offlaner has like a ton of wave clear, say it's like Primal Beast with Trample or Axe with Spin or maybe Mars with Shield Bash or I don't know, Underlord with Firestorm, right? You got to be really careful about stacking this camp because sometimes they just come over and farm it, or
Yeah.
like a
I think
Bristleback,
like
right? Go ahead.
yeah.
What were you gonna say?
Yeah, I think I do farm like the little camp like sometimes when I was this game.
Yeah, right. So that's the
I think
thing
I just
from Dazzle's perspective, right? So because it's theoretically like harder for him to stack this. This is if Dazzle knew all this, right? That means it's going to be harder for them to pull. They have a little bit less control over the equilibrium, and also it means you should be keeping an eye out for if he ever does that. Like if he stacks this camp, like drop what you're doing and go farm it, right? Because that's
yeah.
just free gold for you. But yeah, as long as you guys are favored here, like you just want to be playing for like zoning them away as much as possible and denying in their face, and then whenever they step up too far, you punish them. And other than that, like you don't have to force anything, you know. You're just good because the status quo is going to overtime favor you guys, and then you just be playing for that like Vanguard timing where you can just be here alone or like start cutting creeps, and then Skywrath can like roam and start winning other lanes. Um,
Yeah. I think I get around like 5 minutes.
that's good. I mean, I can't see it because everything's bugged to shit,
Oh.
so I can't see your items. But the spells aren't even in the right order. It's putting all the ags on the left. I think it might be it's like an old patch or something. Let's have a look at
Oh.
scary as shit Skywrath Mage. Oh my god. It's this is not okay. Alright. Anyway. So any other questions about this one? Like
Mm,
maybe like how you would play it if you're like the Dazzle or the Juggernaut or the Skywrath or whatever.
um I feel like if I was the Dazzle I would just make like more like a lot of stacks on the side. I think
Like
there's I
up
think
here maybe.
there's the one above them, like the
Yeah.
one what's like a yeah, where you can get the two.
Yeah.
You can make two camps at a side at a time.
Right.
So if you just went there, I know you can make like two little, and the jug could just keep coming onto it like every few minutes, like every few like
Yeah,
few.
I think that's a good way to do it. And I think also like you also don't want to underestimate how much kill potential you do have. Like you do have Juggernaut with spin and you have poison touch and they don't have any mobility spells. So like it is totally possible for Juggernaut and Dazzle to get kills. It's just that
I
if
feel
we're static laning over time, Skywrath is going to ruin that. Go
I
ahead.
feel like it's if it was once they get level 4 they can't really, but if they before level 4 they could, if that makes sense.
Um, no, I don't think it. Maybe it mostly depends kind of on your item timings. Like if you get like a Vanguard, that's kind of the major changing there. It doesn't really have to do with levels. Um,
Oh
but you are right. It is easier early level. Because that's just kind of how like core scale, right? Like the offlaner is gonna usually be stronger, like level 5, 6, 7 than the carry is. You know. So
yeah,
you're right. Like they do have a small window, but they do have a window where they can definitely threaten you guys like this.
yeah. I think I just got my Vanguard then,
Right. Yeah. So
because like
this one is rough. So we want to be watching out for that. So it's
yeah,
because that's kind of the only way they win the lane is just by getting kills on you guys. They're not going to out harass, right? So you have to be playing around like, okay, just don't let him kill me. But other than that, like we need to be aggressive if possible. And so basically, what that would mean is if Dazzle is ever like running at you, you need to like kind of respect it a little bit. And then
yeah,
if Jug has spin, you need to respect that too. But as soon as he doesn't have spin, as soon as they don't have that combo, because
yeah.
these are long cooldown spells. So where the hell's Juggernaut?
I think it's like 42 seconds level 1, and then
Yeah,
30.
it's super long, 42, and then Dazzle is super long as well. So they don't get to do that all the time. So playing around that timing can be really good. Like even if like in this instance, like let's say they kill you, you can TP right back in and just start being aggressive again because you know they don't have those spells, and those spells are the only thing that
Yeah,
threaten you, right?
yeah.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Do you want to look at one more? Or should we call it there?
Okay, I can do one more then.
Sure. Okay. Hopefully the next one's not cursed, but I kind of think it will be because it looked like all of the replays from yesterday were the ones that were screwed up.
Oh,
Um, we can also we can just look at like we can look at one of my games. We can look at like a pro game because it's really just analyzing like the lane matchup, not so much like what happened. You know what I mean? Um,
okay. Yeah, you can do one of yours then.
okay, for sure. Let's see. Let's see. So let's say like let's try and pick like a hero we haven't really seen before. Yeah, I remember this one. Okay, this one was frustrating to me because I felt like we could have been a lot more aggressive than we were. You know,
Yeah.
maybe I was wrong about it, but I think it was better. So in this one, I was Jakiro 5 with an Ursa 1, and they had Legion 3 and Skywrath 4. And so,
Okay.
what would be your thinking on how this lane is going to go kind of by default?
So, you're the nature's verse.
Well, no natures. So natures is 5, I
Oh,
think. So it's Skywrath Legion versus Ursa Jakiro.
um, if the Jakiro gets on you like with the thing, the Ursa can just like kill you, like burst you. But then like the Skywrath can like harass them down like from like range, if that makes sense.
Right.
But if he just pulls the creeps back, it'll be like very 50-50. So you'll just be both like farming, and like the supports will be like fighting each other.
Well,
Mostly,
let's think about it without the camps. So just pretend there's no camps. It's just like these four heroes in lane. Like, how does that go?
um, I feel like the Skywrath will like harass you down eventually,
Mhm.
but like the Ursa will be like fine, just last hitting.
Okay. What about Legion? Does she harass pretty well?
She does, but like she doesn't to where the Ursa cares.
Yeah, well, it can over time. So if she gets a lot of like really good overwhelming odds, that damage can really start to add up. And another
Yeah,
thing about Legion that you kind of can't forget is Moment of Courage makes her very good at trading because every time she
yeah,
trades with you, she heals, right? But
yeah,
Ursa is also extremely good at trading because of Fury swipes. And I
yeah,
think I think you're right. I think a Skywrath mage is going to out damage a Jakiro over time. And again, it's like the Slark PA thing. Like Ursa offers no ranged harass at all, whereas the Legion does. So
yeah.
I totally agree. I think that's how this would go as well. Like if we just static the lane, we get harassed to shit over time, and it's not good for us, right? And they have heals and everything, so we would eventually lose if we don't do anything. So
I I
go
I
ahead.
think isn't does the odd like Elsie can't like shoot the odds anymore, can she?
What do
I
you
thought it
mean?
only goes up. I thought overrolling odds only goes around her now.
No. That's just an additional thing. So she can still cast it on a target far away, but now
Oh,
while she's dueling, she can cast it, I think, on herself or something. I actually haven't tried it, but she can cast it during duel, and I think it goes around her at that time.
I just thought she couldn't do it like
Can't be
away
cast during
anymore.
duel. It says right there, Cybrek. What do you mean can't be cast during duel? Sorry, my chat's saying that.
Yeah, I think so. I think they can cast through duel, but that she can't cast it far away
No, not on
anymore.
teammates. I think she casts it on. Wait, what? Am I okay? Holy
Yeah,
shit! Do I have this wrong?
Yeah, she can only do it around herself now at the
No.
moment, I think.
What? Okay, I see. I learned something too. Jesus Christ. I did not know that. Are you serious? How long has it been like that? Well, no wonder Whistling didn't go as well as I thought. All right. I'm going to test it real quick. 4 patch. Jesus. Oh, no way. No shot.
Yeah.
Okay. So she can't just. Wow. All right. We learned a thing. We learned a thing. Cool. That is good. That's good to know. See, that's why this is important to do. All right. Still, though, it still means that she's like, so that means she's not going to have as much ranged harass, but she's going to be like decent at trading. So it's sort of, it's not exactly the same concept, but it's similar. But it does invalidate a little bit of what I was saying with that, that like analogy to PA, right?
Yeah.
But regardless, Skywrath does out harass Jakiro for sure. Okay, well that's good. Now I know that. I learned a thing too. Cool. +1 MMR. Interesting. Okay. So, and they also have a lot of burst damage too. So how about crowd control? Like who has more crowd control in this lane?
Jakiro and the Ursa, I'd say.
Yeah, because
It's
we
like,
have a slow stun, and they have, well, we got Ursa slow maybe. They just have this slow, and they don't have anything on Legion, right?
nah.
And we have the stun too.
Well, you've got it's like level. You've got like at level 6, you've got the stunner now, but like in the lane, like you only have like the Skywraths, like the concussion shot,
Right. So
and like
yeah, good.
and the Ursa will have overpower, and then you've got the Jakiro slow and like the ice wall if he gets like.
Right. So what would be, do you think, what would be like the timing for Ursa Jakiro to start like going for kills?
Around like level 4, 3,
Yeah, right, because
and
that's when
then
we have
at
enough
level
to get all our
6.
spells. Yeah, and 6.
Yeah.
Okay. I'd agree with
But
that. I
then
think it's like 3. 3 is definitely like a big window. Because I
I
think,
think as well
yeah.
at 6 they just can't kill Ursa as well.
Well, they can. I mean, they can still kill him. It's just hard, but it's definitely
No,
harder.
'cause
Right? Go ahead.
I think like if it's like they both 6 at the same time,
Uh-huh.
and he rages before they attack, they just die before.
Yeah,
Like they
yeah.
kill him, if that makes sense.
I agree with that. Ursa's definitely like favored in the 1v1, like once it's 6 because of enrage. But I think the, yeah, like the level 3 timing on Jakiro is really strong because that's double 2 points in dual breath, and like you get ice path as well. For, I mean, Skywrath, like I guess he, what, 2 points in concussive. You could go 1-1. Yeah, I don't know. And then Legion's power spike is, I don't even know.
Legion power spikes at like literally like 5 maybe, depending what build like you go with her.
Yeah,
I
it's
know.
like, yeah.
I know, like the overall odds one, it like around like when you got 3 points in it. If you go like a 3-1-1,
Hmm.
like she's pretty strong. Like if that makes sense, like for the
Yeah, yeah.
first, but then because it's like the people like is at Ursa, it's like yeah he'll go down to like maybe half HP, but then like you've just taken on like 3 like steps of free swipes and you're like half HP yourself, if that makes sense.
Right, right. So she's
And
not
then
so
if it
good with scaling over time and levels, right? So like it's kind of like
yeah
this is the only thing we're really worried about because these don't actually scale well. And I'd say Skywrath as well doesn't even scale that well either, just because it's like you don't really have the mana to cast Arcane Bolt a million times. And
yeah
this goes up by 60 damage. It's not that great. Jakiro damage goes way up on like almost everything except Ice Path, and then Ursa obviously just keeps getting stronger and stronger. So yeah, I think like level 1 we're weak. Level like 2, 3, 4, like we get to be more aggressive. And then if everybody hits 6 at the same time, I think like their kill threat with Mystic Flare is like crazy. But we're not really gonna worry about that because it's support.
well I think even if they Mystic Flare you'd still like the hero gets like the macro pyro off, if that makes sense. Like unless the Ursa's silenced or they do it on the Jakiro, I still think he gets his spells off, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think so.
So if they use like if you all 6 at the same time and they use it to kill the Jakiro, I reckon he gets his spells off, and then Ursa gets the 2v1. If they do it on Ursa and he's not silenced, if that makes sense, like he just turns around and like he wins.
Yeah, he's just stronger regardless. Yeah, I think I'd agree with that. I think like overall, kind of pretty much, I would say like every level except for like level 1, I think Jakiro+Ursa is stronger than these two, right? So
yeah,
what I'd be saying is in this lane, we should be going for kills. Like Ursa wants to kill people, and we have the tools to do it because I'm a Jakiro, right? So I feel like we should be running at this Legion like almost all the time, bullying her away. Like she shouldn't be able to walk up to the creeps, right? Like, I think the only way they really lane this is by like Skywrath doing a ton of work to harass and like doing these pulls and stuff. And so that's where this is my bad. Like I need to make sure this pull doesn't happen, so that they don't get to do this, because we're supposed to keep the lane right here and just fight them over and over again. So this is me screwing this part up, you know. But, yeah, it's good. Do you feel like this exercise is helpful? Like trying to think about all this stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe a little bit. Not really. No. Yeah.
It's all right. Like understanding, because like I can just like as like more matchups, I will have to like go in and like have like more matchups, like if I can win or not, like if I can win them or not win them, if that makes sense.
Right. Yeah. So I would say, let's do this real quick. The matchups. So basically, when you come in, there's like just a few questions you should ask yourself. So first off is how many melee and ranged heroes. So is it like double melee versus double ranged? Is it 1-1 versus 1-1? You know, like what type of a lane is it? That's going to make a really big difference, right?
If it is like double melee, should I just normally like just try to not like just try to survive like 5, or like? I feel like double melees are harder lanes.
Do you mean double melee versus what?
Like a double, like a ranged melee, or like
like if I have double range, okay.
Yeah, if I have double double, like if my team's a double melee, I find it like a lot harder like in the lanes normally, and if it's like double something else.
Yeah, so I would agree with that. I think if it's like double melee versus double ranged, it's really hard for the two melee to lane, and usually the way they're gonna play it is gonna be like it's gonna be a kill lane for them. Like they're gonna lane it by going for a kill and then farming, as opposed to trying to static it, right? Because they're strictly disadvantaged if they static it. And this is also where, like, especially if like we're the off lane and we have double melee and they're double ranged, that's where like the position 4 is supposed to like do a ton of dragging and creep cutting and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Because we don't want to static lane, right? So that's always the first question. Just ask yourself like how many melee and range heroes are there, right? And then second thing I would ask is like who has more harass? So who harasses better? Who has more natural regen? That could be another question. And then who has more slows, stuns? These are another question as well, because that's going to be kill threat, right? Whoever has more slows and stuns has more kill threat. Whoever has more regen or harasses better wants the lane to be static, you know? And then it'd be what timings make the heroes really strong for both teams. You know, so like what level do we need before we can like reliably go for a kill, or what level do we have to just leave the lane if they hit it before us or something like that. And then also another thing, so who has more mobility? Escape. So this is a kind of an important one actually, because whoever has more mobility and escape has more leeway to decide if they're going to interact or not, right? So like with the Spirit Breaker example, He's like not scared of Juggernaut for that reason. He also gets to connect to the Juggernaut if he's away. So you have a big advantage there, right? Or if you're laning
Yeah.
against, say, a Weaver or an AM or a Blink, that mobility becomes a really big part of like how that hero interacts. So like a
Yeah.
Weaver can be really annoying to lane against because if you don't have like tons of lockdown, he's just always deciding when he wants to fight you or not, and you have no control over it. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, so these are all things to think about. How many oops, how many melee and ranged are there? Who harasses better? Who has more regen? Who has more slows and stuns? Who has more mobility or escape? And then what timings, basically. And then all
Yeah.
of this is going to inform how you're going to itemize and how you're going to plan to play the lane and how you're going to like ward the camps. Oh, this was another one too. Who pushes the lane harder? That's another one too. So if you have a lot of like natural AoE to do damage,
Like wave clear.
yeah, you got a lot of wave clear. That's also going to mean it's like easier for you to contest camps. It's also going to mean you're probably going to naturally push the lane more, which means it's more important for you to get a pull off. So a good example of that here is like Warlock, right? Right now, Warlock has a ton of push with Fatal Bonds
Yeah.
and Upheaval. And basically what that means is one way you can abuse a Warlock is you go ward his small camp or his camp, whatever it is, because in order to harass you and do damage, he has to push the wave, which means the only way to reset the equilibrium is to then do a pull. So you just block that pull, he harasses you, and now the wave is stuck in front of your tower, right?
Oh
So
yeah.
so it's kind of that whole see like it all adds up eventually. Like once you factor that in, you'd be like, oh, I really need a sentry versus a warlock, which you wouldn't normally think about, but it is like a really good way to counter it. Or
Yeah. 'Cause then he can't like he just if he pushes the lane, it's like bad
yeah.
for him.
Oh, another edge case as well. Who utilizes jungle creeps more? So where this one would come in would be like Doom, Mirana, Pudge, Enchantress, Chen. Any hero that specifically like gets a bonus out of there being jungle creeps because they either get to like mind control the creep or steal its ability or they get to instantly farm it. Like both Pudge and Mirana can just insta kill a big creep, right?
Yeah.
So it can be more valuable to block against any of those heroes because now they just are missing that whole part of their kit, especially versus like an Enchantress. Like I played a game against a Chen we did an in-house, and I'm actually thinking maybe I should have just gone ahead and blocked both camps, like blocked the hard camp and my own small camp. So he had to go really far away to go find a jungle creep. You know what I mean? Like maybe that would
Wouldn't
have
have
been
just
good.
gone. Would they not just gone to the camp above?
Yeah, probably. But that forces him to move farther away, and then maybe that opens up a window where I can like go on the core while he's not there. You know?
Oh, okay.
But maybe,
Yeah.
it's an idea. I'm not 100% convinced on it. I think blocking both camps is kind of crazy, but like maybe that would be viable. Maybe that would really shut the Chen down. I don't know. Just an idea.
Yeah.
But it is still important, especially usually this is going to come in more with offlaners because it's going to be like, oh, is, Enchantress or Doom or Mirana or Pudge going to utilize that hard camp in some way? I usually need to make sure it's
Yeah.
blocked. It's usually for that. The small camp is usually less of a consideration because you don't typically have a lot of heroes in the safe lane that do that. It's usually like off lane heroes that do it, but it could be flipped.
Yeah.
Could be the other way around. Maybe they have an Ench+5, so you want to like block their small camp, so she has to move farther away to get the creeps or something. I don't know. Just something to think about. That's really the whole point here. These are all things to think about.
Yeah.
And any other questions about that so far? Because if not, I think we can wrap up here.
No, I think that should be that one. Just make sure like to try block lanes more, and
Yeah.
then use it to counter the big camp instead of like blocking the little one at the start.
Oh yeah. Like so, use your sentry for securing one and then physically blocking the other one. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's not always going to be possible. That's going to be less reliable in lanes where like let's say they have like a ton of mobility and the enemy support outtrades you, then maybe you just die while you're blocking the camp. That's not so good, right? But it is good in
Yeah.
general. Like if you have the liberty to move around more on the side, you can kind of rely on that sometimes. So yeah.
Yeah.
Radiant structures are fortified. Radiant's bottom tower is under attack.
Or just bring 2 sentries, but that's like a little like tip thing.
Yeah.
And then yeah, then that. So do you think what would be helpful for next time? What kind of homework should we come up with here?
Um.
Do you think focusing on this lane matchup thing more might be helpful, or
Just try to keep like the creep equilibrium to like my side.
okay? So focus a lot on that.
Yeah, like just trying to like if I'm like support, make sure the lanes like are favorable, and if it's like them, like try and make it more favorable for like my like off laner, and then if it's like really rough, drag the creeps around.
Yeah. Have you ever tried that before, like cutting creeps?
I've only cut creeps with like normally like Axe normally,
Okay.
or like Wraith King or something like that normally, but then
All right. We could just have that because that's something you haven't really tried before. That can just be the homework, is to just try that out.
Okay.
So you can do that in like, I mean, you can do it in a bot game. You can do it in an unranked. Like, I don't usually recommend people trying stuff out for the first time, like when they're playing ranked. But I never recommend that actually. But like, yeah, I would say maybe just like working on that and then seeing if you can implement it in a game. You know, because you do play position 4 decently, right? Like enough of the
Yeah.
time, right?
Yeah.
It'll be relevant for you sooner or later. So we'll just have that be the homework then. So practice dragging creeps to your tower behind tower. And what we'll do is next time we'll look at an example where we tried to do that and we'll see how it worked out. I actually just
Okay.
gave I think I just gave that same homework to the other student as well because it was something like he'd never really tried either, and so it'll be interesting to see
Okay.
how like both of you go about it. But I think that'll be really helpful because when I learned that, it was like huge. I'm like, oh my god, now we can play these lanes all completely differently, right? It's really crazy when you learn to start like implementing that a lot.
Okay.
But yeah, for sure. All right.
No worries.
Well, if
Thank
there's
you.
nothing else, we can call it here. Thank you for the session, man. Hope it was helpful. And
Yeah.
I'm not gonna be able to do next week. So and also,
That's fine.
yeah. For anybody else watching, I'm going on a trip next week, so I won't really
Oh.
be available next week. So that'll be
Oh, that's nice. Have
yeah,
a good
yeah,
time.
yeah. We're gonna go visit some of my girlfriend's family and stuff like that. We'll be out for a week, so I won't be streaming much or doing. I won't be available for the session. So we might have to wait till in 2 weeks so we can do the next session.
Oh, that's fine.
Yeah, for sure. All right, man.
Yeah, I hope you have a good time.
Thank you. And
No worries.
good session, and looking forward to the next one.
Alright, thank you. I'll see you later then.
All right, man. Have a good one. Thanks. Bye.
Alright. Bye.
All right, guys. If that was helpful, don't forget to check out the playlist at the end of the video, and don't forget I stream every weekday on Twitch at Mr. TV, 2:30 p.m. PST onwards. And I won't be available next week, so probably no videos next week. But then after that, we'll be good. You can subscribe, it helps out a lot, and I hope to see you in the next one.